I'm Dale Cox for 2 Egg TV, and I'm here today in Fort Gaines, Georgia. And many people who visit here, they see this big cannon beside me, and they assume this is Fort Gaines, and it was in a way. There were actually 3 military forts over time that stood on this same site. The cannon is from the Civil War fortification of the 1860s, and this was the last of the military forts that stood here. The original fort that stood on this site was built in 1816 by the 4th U.S. Infantry under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Duncan Lamont Clinch. Clinch was the same man that Fort Clinch in Amelia Island, Florida, that you may be familiar with, was named for. The construction of the original fort was overseen by the Lieutenant Colonel, but also by Major General Edmund Pendleton Gaines, for whom Gainesville, Florida, and Gainesville, Georgia are named. Gaines was very pleased with the construction of the fort, so the soldiers thought they would honor him by naming it after him, and thus the name Fort Gaines came about back in the spring of 1816. Troops from here went down the Chattahoochee River. They were involved in the campaign or raid against the fort at Prospect Bluff, which you may know of as the Negro Fort on the Apalachicola River. This fort was also occupied through the beginning of the Seminole Wars in 1817 and 1818. The fort was under something of a light siege by Lower Creek warriors who were allied with the Seminoles in Miccosukee in Florida. The fort continued to be occupied until about 1821, when Florida became part of the United States. And at that time, they didn't need this fort anymore, and so it was evacuated by the Army. Now, the fort was rebuilt in 1836, and that's when the Creek War of 1836 erupted. Creek warriors led by James McHenry, who many in this area know of as Jim Henry, crossed the Chattahoochee River, and they raided the town of Roanoke, which was on the Georgia side north of here. That led to a near panic in this area. Settlers stopped a steamboat that was carrying timber or lumber. They confiscated all that lumber, and they built a new fort up here on the bluff, which was also called Fort Gaines. After the war was over, of course, they didn't need the lumber anymore, and so the fort was taken back apart. And then again in 1860s, Confederates built gun batteries up here to defend the Chattahoochee River. This was the last stop before you got upriver to Columbus, where there were major industrial sites. And so there were guns here, this gun being one of them, that were placed here in the 1860s to defend the Chattahoochee River, and in specific, Columbus, from Union attack by way of the river. That's the story of Fort Gaines. I'm Dale Cox for 2 Egg TV.